Hey, you're listening to Blindsight. Let's go. Mental health isn't something to take lightly. It's time to fight. It's time to thrive. Let's do this.
Welcome to Blindsight. This is Bill Lundgren, your host. And I think this is going to be a particularly interesting program because we're talking about writing as part of mental health treatment. I'll call it treatment. And I'm very happy to have Elyse Draper with us, who has written 5 books and 600 articles. And I'm awed by those kinds of numbers. I even yesterday spent all day writing a 1-page report on a meeting of a committee that I'm on to give to the overriding body, and it took me a whole day to write 1 page. So welcome to Blindsight.
Thank you, Bill. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and to meet you.
Great. Well, it's a pleasure for me. Now, can you tell me a little bit about how you realized that writing was important for mental health? How you got there?
Yeah, I got there. Actually, I a lot of people will give you wonderful stories about how they were journaling when they were children, and they had all of these wonderful diaries. And I was not that person, actually. I started out as a visual artist. Painting, drawing, illustrating, all of that.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. My best friend at the time was the journaler, and it never occurred to me, as much as I loved to read, that writing was going to be something I wanted to do. Much like you, I was take me forever to write a page, but I read all the time. When I got into college, I decided to try and do a double major in philosophy with an emphasis on ethics and moral theory and law. It was constitutional and municipal, but I had I wanted to focus on the rhetoric, logic, and rhetoric, and that's where the philosophy and law touched each other and actually started to make more sense to me. I actually wanted to work for the ACLU. But at that time, when you're taking on this much schoolwork, you learn to write and write fast and write your own shorthand so that you can take notes and you can stay on top of things. I even took a speed reading class so I could stay on top of it. By the time I was through that, I still had an emphasis on the visual arts as far as my cathartic expression. But I did proposal writing, and I read legal documents for friends. I did not go through with getting my JD or focusing on the post-grad work. I had a little girl instead, and picked up odd jobs writing, technical writing and proposal writing, working grantsmanship. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, to pay for school, I was also an EMT and later a paramedic, to working within the hospice system. About 2006, I started working with terminal children, severely special needs and terminal children. And
sure,
the weight of everything was just too much to express in my art. I needed to find another outlet, and that's when I started writing fiction. So it was this big buildup, but I've always had a love of the arts as a cathartic experience, a way to express those things that you cannot express otherwise. Music is in there too. I've always loved music. I'm not a musician. My daughter is a soprano and a music teacher, a vocal teacher, and I couldn't be more proud of her. But so yes, the arts.
Absolutely.
I think the arts are imperative to mental health.
I couldn't agree with you more. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's where I ended up.
So then what really crystallized in your mind the use of writing and the work that you're doing now as being important to your mental health?
A number of things happened after my diagnosis. I've low vision. Um, I was diagnosed with PIC, punctate intercardiopathy,
Mm.
in 2014. 2011, the disease started. It was misdiagnosed a couple times, as rare diseases are. No treatment plan was in place, so the disease was running wild. By 2014, um, it dawned on me that my family, um, they couldn't handle what was happening, what my future looked like, how the levels of grief, all of that. They felt I was mentally
Ooh.
ill and disowned me. My husband left, so I was raising my daughter alone. Um, I I have to say that, first of all, this isn't a singular story. Uh, it happens to a lot of people who go through
Absolutely.
a
Mm-hmm.
devastating diagnosis or looking at a lifetime disability. So I went back to work. I focused on my writing. I turned to my writing colleagues, my friends that I had built over the years, and I realized I could make a family of my own, structured out of strength and consideration. Um, and both my daughter and I are better off for the boundaries that were put in place.
Oh, okay, sure.
When wh- what lies now, what drove me to doing what I am now. Like I said, I had worked with disabled children. My nephew is deaf; he's prelingual deaf. Um, so I've always been an advocate. Um, Not because I actually thought I was going to get anything out of it. Certainly not financial stability, but I've always been an advocate. Um, and then I found myself in a position where I needed an advocate. And that's a very, very strange
Mm-hmm.
juxtaposition for an independent person. So I think that I had to dig deep and find strength. And my writing, my background in writing, helped me actually work from home. When I was after 2014 till 2019, I actually worked for Johnson Control Engineering Company in a special operations department, helping with coding on video surveillance. By the time the disease had progressed enough that I couldn't do that anymore, and looking at those computer screens all day long was quite painful. But when I couldn't drive and things started to look very south for me, employment-wise, I found that I could return back to my writing and my publishing skills that I had developed before the diagnosis. And it's led me to this place where I don't I still crave the support, the
Sure.
love that we all crave, but I find that I'm happier. I'm happiest when I'm in an advocate position. So I developed the VI&B Creatives Workshop to help others use their creativity, embrace their creativity. There's a systemic issue with going blind. Well, there's a systemic issue
Mm-hmm.
with disabilities in general. I think it's a subconscious or an unconscious bias that leads people to believe that there is a cognitive decline when something like this
Right.
happens, when you lose a sense. And unfortunately, we're living in their world, and we
Sure.
can start to believe that. So the VIMB was was about exploring not believing that. Since then, it has been taken under the umbrella of the Inclusive Publishing House that I'm the marketing director for. So it is considered a 501c3 project. That way it can generate its own funds. And we've already made sidelong partnerships with Friends of the Arts. The FIA is a visual art, textual art, sculpture, the arts for the blind community. I highly recommend people check that out as well. Yes, so that's where I'm at now, and I have 3 main purposes within the VI&B. We want to explore and celebrate the creativity, the minds, and the cleverness that still exists, no matter where our eyesight may be. We want to actually offer a platform of education from experts on how to develop a writing career, should they be interested. It's something we can do at home, and with our screen readers, it's a natural progression. So there are there's tips, there's tricks. We have 3 separate audio visual tracks to go over grammars, points in grammar, so that you can listen to your work read back to you and actually apply grammar. There is, so we're trying our best. There's also blogging, an example. And then a good friend of the VI&B, Paul Mars, has actually talked about creative writing as a profession. So there's the professional experience in case people are interested on how to begin there. We're hoping soon to have an incredible interview with a writer and dear friend that happens to be an expert in resumes, so that he can help the community sift through their resumes and make them look better and sound better. There is also, once we have enough submissions into the VI&B, the publishing house has very kindly offered to publish an anthology of all of the work that's submitted.
Wow. You are an
I've gone back to being advocate.
Yeah, you are very much an advocate. So in other words, you're not only talking about writing for mental health, but also having a community of writers who that you're connected with and are doing the same thing in a sense as you are to how I would call community support, like creating a family.
Absolutely. The when you have a community like the blind and low vision community, there's a tendency to infight and actually try to define each other. The VI&B actually, it's set up with the idea that visual loss and or blindness, it's something that coexists with who we are. It does not define who we are. It's acknowledged that there's a spectrum, and it's acknowledged that there are different skills, different talents. So even though it is, because it's what I can offer is the writing portion of it, but it's open to musicians and artists and tactile artists. We have a beautiful collection a woman had done of crocheted, 3-dimensional crocheted art. She calls them blankets, but I think they're art. and it really is about celebrating everything that we can do to help us keep our toes in the water.
So, So what I'm hearing,
I'm
hearing you say is this is a group that have, I'll call it the same issues, not quite, that's not quite accurate, but in similar issues, similar barriers to being able to present themselves to other people, amongst friends, people, I would assume, understand what they're going through as they try to create, because they've been there, they're doing the same thing. In other words, we share a similar background, and share the experience of trying to deal with the world barriers
Yes.
and
Yes.
producing work that's equal to anything that the sighted community would produce.
Absolutely. Absolutely. However, it's not really going to be a comparison to the sighted world, because we genuinely bring a new aspect to art. Because of my disease, my left eye in particular has very little left. It's just peripheral on the outskirts. And my right eye have about 10 degrees of center field of vision. I am still a working graphic illustrator. I also own a branding and merchandising company where I am a graphic designer. But what that entails is having a computer screen really close to my face and a stylus if I can work it, or I just do the artwork and then we scan it in and recreate it on the computer. So it's not about any possible limitations. It's more because of our celebration. And I noticed a marked difference in my writing style when I stopped thinking about the world solely in a visual context. So the adjectives have changed. How a room feels when you walk into it, it has changed. I know the smell of dust motes when you walk into a room and it's almost like a good bookshop, but then you sneeze and realize that that's not it. the the feel of sunshine, not light streaming through a window, but the energy and the warmth.
Yes.
So this isn't about a visual. It's not comparing to the visual world. It's about celebrating who we are, period.
Period.
And learning new ways to celebrate. Yeah.
And that's the marvel of it.
Yeah.
To take where we are and make all parts of it produce what we want to produce, not in competition, but in terms of being able to be fully creative, what it sounds like.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I think that there is an absolute catharsis. I listened to a beautiful speech years ago. One of the original advocates for the ADA, and I can't remember her name right now, but she had said, what people need to remember is that we are all only temporarily abled. Disability is something that creeps up on all of us, especially with age. And that when we make the world more accessible to the most vulnerable, it makes the world more accessible to everyone. There's really no downside to accessibility. And I want that to be the same theory behind the creative world.
Right.
If it wasn't for the blind community, the first audiobooks would not have been recorded.
Right.
If it wasn't for the blind community, the typewriter, the keyboard would not have been created the way it was. It wasn't for the deaf community, we wouldn't have text messages. There are advancements that benefit everyone equally. And if in any way we can find advancements in the creativity realm as far as helping mental health, going into mental health, it will actually help everyone who grieves. And it absolutely is a grieving process when you start to absorb a diagnosis such as this. Every day is a little bit different. I walked into the wall the other day and I broke my glasses and I broke my toe and I tore off my toenail. And my thing is, no one goes blind gracefully. You just don't.
Yes, I know.
But
I wear I started to wear a sun visor, with just the rim, and then there's a band around, because I just got tired of banging my head and thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be brain damaged before too long.
I know.
And people may think,
I know.
and people think it's strange. I don't consider it strange. I consider it a something that I'm doing right in terms of protecting myself.
Absolutely. I've never been terribly graceful. I've always been kind of a klutz, but when my lower peripheral vision went away, which was one of the first things aside from the damage to the central vision, I kept falling into stuff.
Yeah.
And I have broken so many things. But I have to tell you, after I got the white cane, I have not had a really bad fall in years. And I've had, and it's usually children, and it's usually asked innocently, why do you need a cane if you can see some stuff?
Yes, right.
I have to explain to them,
yeah.
but I can't see enough.
Yeah. I can relate to that very much. And my sister was graduated from fine art school. And then when her vision started deteriorating, she has the same condition as I have. Instead of feeling bad about herself, which unfortunately a lot of people are encouraged to do, she changed her the things that she would focus on. She was doing more wood sculpture, bronzes, things she could manipulate with her hand, and she also discovered a device. I have a cheaper version of it that would tell her colors of something.
Yes.
And she put.
Yes.
So she loved weaving, but this device would tell her not only what color it is, but what percentage of different colors might be in that particular yarn. And she's done some lovely weavings. And, and this thing that I'm hearing you tell me, that your organization is offering help to people, hope to people, because we say, no, we don't have to give up who we are. We just have to make some adaptation and present the kind of work that we want to present. Am I saying that right?
Absolutely. I think so. Yes, absolutely. And then just because affirmation is always good, and genuine affirmation is always good for the human mind, the spirit, and the community. Celebrating those creative moments. A good friend, well, she's a recent friend, but became a good friend very quickly. Chris and I had talked about the creativity aspect of what we're doing, and that we're actually, and just as a side note, we're going to be providing or writing a grant proposal to Reader's Digest, who has a special grant for the visually impaired community to support the VI&B. So that's wonderful. But this is the mind behind all these wonderful things, and openly admits that she does not have a creative bone in her body. So we decided what we could do what we could do is have a group. We'll get together and we can throw pottery. We can make pots and stuff. Have a lot of wine and a lot of laughs, and then have an auction for the hockey pucks that were supposed to be an ashtray that we have created, because it doesn't matter what you create or how good you think you are or how talented you think you are. There is an exchange of energy when you create something.
Absolutely.
And we have a wonderful lyricist who's a musician who works off and on with the committee. And we have a gentleman that we had just met who actually plays the piano in his church. And I asked him if someone could record him so that we can put that up, because everything we do should be celebrated.
Absolutely.
Visually impaired, blind, sighted, everything. These things should be celebrated, and there is that energy exchange. It does help. It helps with grief. It helps with anger. It helps with anxiety. It helps with mourning. It helps. And I have had a lifetime of creativity to fall back on, and I think that saved me in more ways than one.
Absolutely.
However, I worked with the DVR, the Department of Vocational Resources here in Colorado, to help me learn what I was supposed to do next after my sight had gotten to the point where I genuinely I couldn't keep myself safe anymore. I was injuring myself. I couldn't see cars coming, things like that. So, when I spoke to them, they were extremely helpful. They helped me with tech. They introduced me to JAWS. The white cane, the mobility instruction. Shout out to Jadwiga. And an opening into a community where I attended the Union Station support group, and a bunch of like-minded professionals who just happened to have lost their sight. And it's beautiful. It's a wonderful thing. But what surprised me with the DVR was there were no jobs offered outright that really actually spoke to the more liberal arts, educated and talented. So the idea of working in an assembly line or going to tend to vending machines, that's a mark of underemployment that feeds the systemic ableism we put upon ourselves.
Absolutely.
We need to remember who we are and do it. Actually, that was the driving force behind the Creatives Workshop. As I went to the DVR lectures and I was speaking to groups of the blind all over Colorado about writing as a profession. And what surprised me were how many people really wanted to, not necessarily as a profession, but as a way of expressing themselves. And so it just made sense to start the VI&B. And now that it's part of a publishing house, there's so much more we can offer. It's very exciting, I think.
Hello, everybody. Jonathan Price here, your podcast producer at AfterSight. I want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of Blindsight with Elyse Draper. Now, you're listening to part 1. So if you're confused as to why you're hearing my voice, it's because we're splitting this episode up. So come back next week for part 2. Before you do that, we want you to go to aftersight.org/hike, because there you're going to find information on our annual Audio Trekkers hike. This is happening September 13th, and we cannot wait for you to join us. Bring your guide dog, bring your family, your friends, your kids, your neighbors, your coworkers, whoever, to come join this really unique experience hiking up a hill and just experiencing the great outdoors all together. If you have any questions, visit aftersight.org/hike, and you can visit us at aftersight.org for more information about the organization. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, send us an email, feedback@aftersight.org, or give us a phone call, 720-712-8856. All right, we hope you have an amazing week. Enjoy the weather. Don't get too burned out there. We'll talk to you next week.